good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. We're going to start this party. We have a couple of wonderful guest speakers I'm going to introduce in a second. You probably see their smiling faces and beautiful hair in this. But what we're going to talk about first, and then we're going to get into that, is we're going to be driving U.S. exports to the ASEAN through cross-border e-commerce. We have a lot to cover. We're going to go through a little bit, a quick snippet about the Grow Big initiative. Why are we here? What does this mean? How are we able to get everybody in the room? Then we're going to talk a little bit about the situation, what's going on right now with cross-border acceleration in a post-COVID world, specifically regional snapshots by Google. Then we're going to talk a little bit about building the right foundation for global growth. OmniChannel, what is it? Why is it inevitable? Why is it so key to cross-border? And how do these all relate? And part of that is the narrative around the 4 pillars of an opportunity for growth through cross-border omni-channel. And that includes talking about channels, where are you selling, marketing, how are you driving traffic, the operations, how do you actually do this in an efficient way that makes sense, and then the fulfillment, how are you actually going to deliver your goods. So with that quick thing, I'm just going to mute some folks for a quick second. Sorry about that. Grow Big initiative. What is it? We're going to bring together the best in breed industry experts, business leaders, government officials to retool and empower U.S. small and medium businesses to go online and sell overseas. So it's really pulling together all of the kind of best in breed. Why now? For many of the reasons we all know, it's never been more opportune for SMEs to go global with affordable tools, scalable solutions, and provide them with a vantage point for opportunity. And this is something that we're going to be talking about today. There's unprecedented demand for online growth in cross-border purchasing for U.S. products, as we know. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, the U.S. has really an amazing network of tech providers, logistics firms, data solutions that we should be leveraging to help our companies go global. BigCommerce plays a specific role because we have, as a U.S. company, 600 employees in the U.S. We're USCS, thanks to Larry Tabash's support, client for software as a service exporting, where we have a best in breed ecosystem. What does that mean? I'll talk about it in a second around how we have an open platform that other integrators and support entities, whether it's EasyShip, CedCommerce, and others, and marketplaces like Facebook, Google, Walmart, et cetera, they all play a role in our ecosystem, and we bring them with us on this journey. And then our system is optimized to really help B2B manufacturers. And I'll talk about that at some point. Publicly traded, all that stuff. Some brands you may recognize, just so that you know that we're doing stuff. SaaS platforms. So again, the enterprise. So these are the different ecosystems. And how this is relevant for us in the future is, if you guys want to know about something pertaining to any one of these product categories, we have companies that are experts in it. We also have agencies that work with U.S. companies on a regular basis. And if you know other agencies that want to join in on the initiative and want to get their merchants up and overseas, we can certainly help with that. And the program is going to be starting. This is one of the first initiatives of the program is actually today, this morning in your world. We're going to be going out to different entities around the country and talking about and doing audits for companies on where they are globally, running accelerators with our partners, bringing tools to them, and then matching them up with the services like yours to really grow through an action plan that we develop. So I want to bring it over to Shruti, who's here from CedCommerce. Shruti, thanks for joining us. I'll contextualize for you. So Shruti comes from a company called CedCommerce. They're an integrator. We're going to talk about what they do as it pertains to you guys later. But right now, she's going to download some of her insights, what she's seeing in the region.
Yeah, true. Well, before I proceed with, thank you for having me here, Josh. It actually means a lot for me, and I'm truly excited to be virtually meeting each one of you. I hope everyone's doing really great. Well, before I proceed with the ins and outs of the Asian market, I believe we all agree with the fact that the global pandemic has flipped the retail game board. However, it is interesting to see how gracefully the Asian e-commerce activities continue to accelerate even till today. Supporting which, here is a report by Google and Temasek, which says that the SE digital economy is set to exceed over $300 billion by the year 2025. these huge figures tells us that there is no better time to dive into the Asian's e-commerce industry than now. Well, there's no denying the fact that the SCA holds the world's third enormous population, and it holds tremendous expansion opportunities for all the SMEs out there. Data suggests that 8 out of 10 Southeast Asians are spending more time on the internet and are finding technology very helpful for them during these times. Now, as I move further, I'd like to walk you through the current digital economies in the Asian region. If we see, well, there's this fact that I get reminded of. Since the consumers and SMEs continue to shift online, Southeast Asia recorded 40 million new internet users in the year 2020, out of which 1 in 3 users came online for the very first time due to the pandemic, the COVID-19 that we have here even now. Yeah. So the graphical data here, it makes it very obvious that countries like Indonesia and Vietnam are the fastest growing digital economies of the region, following which the interest in the e-commerce sites continued to increase. If we see, Thailand saw a 63% in its search terms, in the e-commerce search terms, followed by Malaysia seeing a 30% increase, and Vietnam recorded over 13% increase in the e-commerce search terms. Moving further, how about we dive into the most popular categories selling throughout the Asian region? Reports show a shift towards essentials as traffic to fashion, electronics, beauty, cosmetics, home decor, baby care, daily essentials, and many more. While people in Southeast Asia are expected to continue shopping online groceries and even the other essential items, even the coronavirus pandemic is over. So yeah, we can see people shopping online and getting in their, getting in their products delivered right at the comfort of their door. So we also notice something here, as people are spending more time during at home during the lockdown. A major shift in interest to the non-essential items was also recorded. To quote a few, we could see here the search interest for kitchen appliances like air fryer rose by 190% in Singapore alone. Also, Vietnam saw a 60% growth for blender, and queries for coffee maker grew by 33% in the Philippines. In Thailand, the search interest for home automation jumped by 90% during the peak lockdown period, and smart TV search interest in Malaysia grew by 39% as people search for ways to improve their at-home entertainment. We can also conclude the fact that people are more jumping into the entertainment stuff at their home, because obviously, and yeah. So one last thing to quote here is how exponentially the vitamins were searched for. Since people are spending more time on their screens, the laptop screens, they're more aggressively looking for eye vitamins and these sort of things. Also, consumers will be now spending more cautiously. Promotions, discounts, and deals are top of the mind. 55% of Singaporeans said they're waiting for a promotion before buying their delayed purchase, whereas a total of 40% said are looking to trade down to cheaper alternatives, which concludes that retailers must need to think about pricing and creative ways to destock inventories, which will even lead the shopping festivals to come out as the industry growth levelers for them. Well, in mid of all this, we're also noticing how Asians have slowed their purchase from the US. And I'd like to hear from Josh to help us better understand the scenario of how and why are people, getting lesser into this reason. Yeah.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you very much. We're going to actually come back to you, as you know, a couple of times during this journey. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about like what are the challenges? Why are they having challenges? US companies going in, what are the top reasons? This is not just unique to the ASEAN region, but it's super pertinent and an issue that your clients are going to have to deal with, right? The results of the challenges around delivery, which we're going to talk about with EasyShip and Zach, the return issues, reasonable shipping times. There's a lot of concerns around it. There's also a lot of concerns about, is this product an authentic product? The more our companies can help imbue a sense of authority, of authenticity, of location of origin, transparency, the more that customers, especially in Asia, who are inundated with a combination of products that either are not what they say, they may not come on time, they may be from illegitimate or gray sources. This is something that we inherently do, especially for D2C. As US companies, we inherently have a sense of quality and authenticity and transparency. And D2C offers that because consumers want to know that it's coming straight. It's not touching a distributor / getting kind of sprinkled out to a bunch of different distribution and possibly even illegitimate distribution channels. So it is an opportunity that's an added advantage, but you have to articulate that up front so that you can address the concerns that we've listed here. So now we're going to talk about the right foundation. What's the right foundation for a lot of these companies to go through? And this is something that we call the OmniChannel strategy. All that really means is the ability for companies to sell everywhere. It's imperative, as we often talk about, that companies are not just saying, hey, I'm on Amazon and I'm going to have my Amazon shop and I'm going to do that. Oh, I'm going to do one distributor here and I'm going to do that. Luckily, due to COVID, the idea of channel conflict, where we have a lot of companies who traditionally said, well, I can't go into, let's say, Vietnam because I already have a distributor there. The distributors have dried up to such an extent that companies are much more willing than they ever have been to say, well, you know what, I'm actually going to be able to go direct to consumer in your market as well, through marketplaces, through social commerce, et cetera. And that's the reason why, and we're talking about this a little bit going forward, you're seeing a dissolving of the borders between social media and marketplaces or commerce to doing social commerce. Facebook, WeChat, TikTok, they're all getting in the game. Line is getting in the game on social, transactional, social commerce. And you're seeing marketplaces like Amazon and others getting into the social kind of game with live streaming and others. You're also seeing a lot of that in cross-border because marketplaces are one of the best places to go overseas because it's already optimized for your local experience. So it's a great way to do cross-border shopping. But again, you have to be able to be everywhere. And there's a lot of different pillars to doing that. How does that work? Really quick. And again, obviously, I'm paid by BigCommerce. But you know what? There are a lot of different channels out there like BigCommerce that are looking at or starting to or already doing something similar. What's important for you to take away is that a platform, when you talk to merchants or manufacturers, say, hey, don't just put yourself on one marketplace because now you've got to spin up listings that are unique to that marketplace, content and all the other things. Then you've got to go and do the same exact thing on Facebook, Instagram. You've got to do the same thing on Rakuten. You've got to do the same thing on Shopee. Do it through a hub where you can have your website, both B2B and B2C. You can have syndication of your products across all these other marketplace channels and social channels, but you can see your listings and your inventory and your asks, your consumer demand in one place. You can see the return on investment in marketing all in one place. So it really should be building from the ground up this as a global strategy called OmniChannel. And that's kind of the visual of that. Now we're going to walk through the 4 pillars of that in the context of the wonderful people we have on the phone and the areas that we should be focused on. So first, we're going to talk about channels. How do you determine what marketplaces, which marketplaces should you be selling on, which social in a given market like ASEAN? And that's what Shruti is going to break down for us. And we're going to talk a little bit about marketing. I'll talk a little bit about what the nuances of marketing are in the ASEAN region and how do you drive traffic to your listings once you figured out where you're listing. Then we're going to talk about operations. How do you actually manage all this craziness out there in an effective and efficient way where you're not getting inundated by 50 different data streams and 50 different inputs for inventory management? And finally, we're going to talk about fulfilling. How do you actually fulfill products, especially cross-border, US into the ASEAN region? Sounds crazy to me, and Zak's going to break that down. So again, we have a little guide. I know you guys can't really download stuff, but I have a little URL that's in the invitation, and you guys could download some stuff that talks about this. But let's talk about sales channels. So essentially, we're talking about 4 major categories. You've got your website. Your manufacturers, your merchants are going to have their own website. We're going to talk about how do you optimize that real quick. the website, essentially, we're talking about. Then we got marketplaces. About half of cross-border revenue for merchants in Asia and the EU are coming from marketplaces. That's huge. You've got to be on marketplaces. That's a great channel for you to be doing it, but that doesn't mean you have to have everything on those marketplaces. And then social commerce. Obviously, most consumers nowadays are relying on social, and we'll talk about that in the context of marketing later for how they're purchasing products. And then the brick and mortar, of course, if and when brick and mortar starts to activate, that's another channel. Real quick snapshot. I'm not going to go into all this right now. Take a screenshot, or I'll ask you for it later. But these are the main pain points that you should be dealing with. It's very quick and simple for any merchant you've got. Just say, hey, are you doing all these things for your website? If you're not, we'll talk. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's a lot of different plugins and services, regardless of if you're on BigCommerce or any of the other platforms. Just do it. It's a plugin. It doesn't require in-house tech. But the problem is, no one's coming to your site if no one knows your brand. We'll talk about that in marketing, but we're also going to talk about that in marketplaces. Who's on marketplaces? Which marketplaces? And for that, we're going to Shruti again. Shruti, you're up. Well, let me tell you guys a little bit. It's disjointed, but why the heck does Shruti know all this stuff about marketplaces? That's a great question. CedCommerce, as I talked about quickly earlier, is a syndication, facilitation, and listing service that we'll talk about in the operations section. But their business is getting products from one location in a merchant's warehouse listed on all these different marketplaces. So she lives and breathes in this stuff.
Definitely, yeah. True that. I agree to every word that you said. Fine. So I'll take the slide ahead. We know that Southeast Asia is such a diverse region that has continued to attract young shoppers, especially. Like a lot of shopping activities happen from people, the millennial age, ranging from 18 to 35 years of age. So now let's get into and understand the e-commerce landscape of the region one by one. Speaking of Singapore, we see Singapore's e-commerce sector is projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 14.7% by 2022. So some of the key drivers of growth in Singapore market are its high internet penetration, the smartphone adoption, and things like these. We see that Lazada, Shopee, and Qoo10 are the most asked for platforms in the Singapore, followed by with over 37.1 million internet users. Thailand is the second largest state right after Indonesia. Lazada, Shopee, JIB are one of the most in-demand marketplaces of Thailand. And moving ahead, we see the Malaysia's $2 billion e-commerce market makes it the third largest in the Asian region after Indonesia and Thailand. Malaysia also has robust internet and mobile connectivity and lists Lazada, Shopee, and Presto Mall as one of its high in-demand marketplaces of the region. If we talk about Indonesia, yes, the biggest e-commerce market in the Asian, the country's e-commerce growth is supported by several factors. Tech-savvy population that is quick to embrace newer technologies. And well, as we go off, attracting 87.9 million unique internet users, Lazada, Tokopedia, and Bukalapak is the top in demand marketplace of Indonesia. Speaking of Philippines, we see since it attracts 76 million internet users, it has 124 billion mobile connections, 72 million mobile social media users. All these facts, some of the facts that the Philippines is well placed to take up e-commerce. And obviously, last but not the least, with over 54.1 million people, Myanmar is a huge potential for e-commerce and continues to grow exponentially in the Asian region. Well, with more and more Asian population turning into e-commerce, the online marketplaces prove to be the real best time rescues for all retailers and help them cover a huge customer base. The tech behemoths, such as, I'd request you to change the slide, Josh. Yeah. So here we are. We see how these tech behemoths such as Shopee, Lazada, Qoo10, Prestomall, and others are already benefiting from the major shift in e-commerce. So let's talk about them one by one. We see Lazada attracts a total of 13.71 million users. And since I've listed here, its zero listing fees makes it favorite among sellers. So what we mean by zero listing fees here is that Lazada costs you no charge while you're registering on the platform. Say you're a newbie, you're a new e-commerce retailer, and you've just registered in the Lazada marketplace. So you can be free of the fact. You can be rest assured that you're not going to be charged any additional cost just based on the listings that you make on the platform. So yeah. But again, it does cost you certain commissions based on the sales that you make. But then again, that happens once you have successfully made a sale on the platform. Only then a certain amount of the commission from the product category is asked from you. We also see how Shopee has escalated itself in a matter of, I guess, 8 to 9 years. I guess it was founded in 2013, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So it attracts a total of 5.76 million unique users per month to its website. And the best part with Shopee is that it enables, it allows you to offer free shipping deliveries. So that is something that obviously attracts to the end customer. People these days are looking forward. These are the best of the tactics to allure to attract more customers at your store. If we see at Qoo10, that can be seen to be attracting over 1.72 million users. Again, you can leverage their free listing and go on selling your products. I would say the benefit with free listing is that no matter, if you're a newbie in the e-commerce arena, or you're someone who's already selling on multiple marketplaces, so you do not have that fear of investing your investing dollars or investing your bucks in it, just having listed those products, and you're waiting for certain sales to happen. So you're free for that part. If we see Lilong, yeah, it attracts around 362.77K users per month. And what we mean here is when we say clear transparency of your transactions with Lilong, yeah, it offers you secure payments and secure transactions, which again builds customer loyalty and helps them get back to your e-commerce, to your store again. Let's move to Prestomall, sorry. Okay, so we see that it again helps you with free shipping thing. And last but not the least, we have Zalora with us. So everybody in the Asian region knows this name since it's the fashion hub of the Asian. So, okay, with this, I'll conclude the slide by saying that we know that social commerce, how drastically social commerce helps in converting all our connections to buyers. Now, yeah, here is when I'd like to hand over to Josh, and who would really give us some quick insights. Yeah, over to you.
Sure, Shruti, thank you so much for that insight. That's invaluable. And again, we've got questions already coming in. Any of the panelists can take them. That's great. I'm going to talk a little bit about social commerce, so I can talk about that. And obviously, if there's still questions around social commerce, likely there will be, we can go forward. But social commerce, obviously, Instagram, one of the questions specifically around Instagram, obviously, it speaks to the bigger popularity around social commerce. I'm not going to go too deep into Instagram more than what we know, right? So shoppers worldwide are buying on Instagram. What does that mean? What is Shoppable Instagram about as a platform? So here's an interesting, unique advantage. Currently, you cannot actually purchase, if you're a merchant in, let's say, if you're a merchant in Indonesia trying to sell into the US, you actually have to have a US product store, a US inventory rather, and a tax ID in the US. Otherwise, what you have to do is go off-site checkout. You have to basically, you can list and you can send people from Instagram to purchase a product on your site, and your site still has to be optimized. If you're a US seller, you can have a combination of two options. One, you can have in-site, it's called checkout, or off-site checkout. So you can actually sell on Instagram. Technically, you can sell cross-border globally by listing your products, creating clickable media. So as you're seeing a photo, you hit shoppable media and someone can purchase it. Now, for the domestic aspect, you can do it if you're a US company with in-store or in-site checkout, meaning no one even goes over to a checkout process on your own website to purchase. They can purchase it within Instagram and fulfill. The challenge is fulfilling cross-border in the Instagram, and maybe Zach has an answer for this later on in the discussion. I'll buy you some time, Zach. But the idea of offsite is also not a bad solution, which is basically as somebody goes to purchase it, it just sends the purchasing process over to your own website. You still have your own checkout. And like we talked about in the previous slides up here, assuming you've done these things where you've optimized for cross-border and the checkout process, you're going to send somebody from that shoppable experience on Instagram over to your own site right here. And then, yes, you can fulfill globally out of your Instagram. Okay. So one of the things we're seeing, and this isn't unique to social, but most of these data points are lifetime value of shoppers. So shoppers tend to, in the Philippines and Vietnam, we're seeing 2 times a week are purchasing on social, 1 time a week, let's say in Thailand and Singapore. Ultimately, though, that's really key, I think, from a US perspective, because we want to encourage them to invest in the long haul, not in those immediate touch points. Make sure that the 80-20 rule, 80% of your revenues come from 20% of your shoppers. Build that loyalty, build that lifetime value. And that happens a lot more on social than it may happen on a marketplace. So get those brand ambassadors, those micro influencers, and build your tribe, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Now, live selling, that's huge and growing. Obviously, live selling, what does that mean? It's live streaming. It's that person on the phone doing a little bit, hey, have you seen this product? And by the way, it doesn't look great on me. That's what's happening. And it really requires tapping into those influencers in market. And that's not just about paying for ad spend. It's also about finding the right people who are brand loyal to you. So take a look at that. Ask your merchants, have you already looked at where your Instagram feeds are coming from? Who's coming to your site from around the world? Usually they isolate it to the US or their target markets. Tell them to unlock that tab and look where they're coming from everywhere. Social influence, social media obviously is influencing purchasing. Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, top categories. Why is that important? Particularly because guess what? Our merchants happen to know it. Unlike some places in the world where they're not using those platforms, our merchants already know how to use those platforms. Obviously, authenticity is key. Shoppers want to see real photos, real consumers. What does that mean? It means that our companies don't have to spend tons of money making really polished, wonderful looking products, because the more authentic they look, the more authentic they resonate with the audience. So, and of course, this is just general stuff on spending and letting them know a little bit of those price points, and the shipping issue is going to be a major issue we'll talk about later. And the last but not least, B2B is a major category. And that's migrating also to marketplace spend. You're seeing buyers now going, instead of procuring through traditional channels, and that's per one of the comments around how do we manage distribution in the traditional sense when purchasers are now going online and buying our products. Localizing your listings. This is part of the thing that CedCommerce is involved in, right? This is the idea of when you're doing that marketing, make sure that you're syndicating and translating all of that, but don't do it in every single site. Do it centralized through that hub and then syndicate. So it saves you a lot of time, a lot of money. And when you talk about why, some of our merchants don't even want to do that with the site. They just want to be on Instagram. That's fine. But let's assume that at some point they also want to be on Shopee and they also want to be on Amazon in a certain region. Why are they going to do that all? They should do it through a hub, and then they actually click through and manage it all through and list it all through that hub onto Instagram. But that's the strategic one. But of course, yes, you can hack it and go straight to Instagram and leave it at that. But then you're also missing out on Google Shopping as well, and some of those listings, which I'm sure Meridith can talk to. So 30 days after launching, you're seeing huge increase in localized ads. That's very interesting, just because that's what you're talking about, is increasing once you start to localize your advertising and syndicate it. So when you talk about those export wins, that's where it's at. I don't want to take too much time. I want to see what we're on time. We're okay with time. So again, how valuable are the following networks in terms of driving non-paid? So non-paid, we say it's more organic, right? So if our companies are really invested in some of these platforms in the US, and they feel like they can localize some of their content with minimal spend because there's not a lot of text on their advertising, and so they can really take the imagery and really bring it to life in the ASEAN region, leverage social media, have them do those activities, and organic is still a driver on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, even though obviously paid is if you have the budget, it works well. What types of promotions are working well? Obviously, still price sensitive. Sales are great. A lot of our merchants, we say, don't go to market on day one with a sale. You can link up with the holidays, of course, and do activities like that. But instead of sales, do free shipping, for example. A lot of the discussions around offers, a lot of our companies do a discount. But if you actually do free shipping, and I know it sounds crazy, and maybe Zach can talk to whether that's practical, but free shipping is a perceived value of up to 40% of a discount in many markets. What does that mean? It means instead of giving somebody a 40% discount, give them free shipping. And the perceived value from the consumer is more or less, as amorphous as it is, a perceived value of 40%. Of course, a lot of things that revolve around photos and other things we talked about, making sure you're hitting that customer support and you're creating an ease of checkout and that authenticity. All these things are the resonant things that our companies can start doing today. Just see. And the last thing I'm going to say in marketing before I stop to take a slew of some questions here is find your tribe. Here's a US company, right? They make product that is for camping. They're going to resonate with a certain community. When I talk to brands in the US and we say, well, first you're going to saturate the market in, let's say, San Francisco. The number of people, camping in San Francisco may be more significant than elsewhere in the country, but the number of people camping around the world is much larger. And if you can deliver to them, then go after that market because you have more in common with a merchant or a consumer that's going camping in Indonesia, let's say, and a camping in Mexico and camping in Washington State than you do with someone going to the spa in Mexico or the spa in Washington State and in Seattle, right? So obviously find the tribe. Channel conflict is definitely alive and well. It's going to be hard to get distributors to agree. There are a couple of ways you can deal with this. There are some times where you can actually have a company that's not in the market yet set up inventory with the distributor. The distributor fulfills online direct to the consumer and gets a better price point because they're managing that process. So they become almost like a 3PL or 4PL for the US brand. But the distributor runs the in-country ad campaigns, the pop-ups, all that work, and they should get a benefit for it. But they actually can also do the fulfillment, even if it's coming off of an iHerb or an Amazon, if they set up fulfillment by merchant and reroute it to their distributor. iHerb is a challenge because iHerb likes to do this all themselves. I don't know if they have a fulfillment by merchant option in iHerb. I want to ask Zach, possibly if you have sorry to surprise you there, talking about EasyShip, which is really going around the distributor. Let's say you're distributing cross-border, but how do you suggest working with distributors in market? Do you have any sort of schemes or scenarios where that plays out?
So I guess like in our perspective, most of our clients actually just use our warehousing partners around the world. So they sort of remove that distributor layer and then they reduce the price because there is actually more margin involved.
Yeah, it's a tough world for distributors. I find distributors, the best way they can add value is by saying, look, we can do the pop-ups, we do the engagement, but there are certain value to having them manage in-country stores. I mean, I think on Shopee, for example, a lot of the marketplaces do prefer working with distributors because they know it's going to be easy. I think that is going to be dissolving. And I wish I had a good answer in terms of how to deal with distributors, but the world's not going in that direction. Yeah. Okay. I'm moving on to the operations. Let's get into operations. And here's the time where Shruti gets to talk a little bit more about how this all works. But what we talked about already is the idea of listing and syndicating. So you're going to be looking at how do you build that infrastructure to excel in terms of everything from product listings, inventory management, and then the ERPs. And there's lots of different companies that help you with that. Shruti, you're up.
All right. I hope the shops today have multiple touch points and routes to purchase, which makes it necessary for retailers to branch out and expand. Well, in a nutshell, I'd sum it up as the present state of commerce is business to everyone rather than B2B, B2C, or D2C. It's simply put B2E. And as the consumer demands are more than ever, it gets difficult to cope up with the increased demand to keep an eye on the artist manually. So here at CedCommerce, we help retailers in expanding and automating their selling processes through our integration solutions, which helps them to sell their customers seamlessly. A wide range of integration solutions include platforms, include various platforms such as BigCommerce and the others that are listed here. And our integrations comes equipped with world-class features and helps you with automate your listings. When I say automate listings, we simply mean you do not need to manually update your inventory in your stores, no matter the number of channels, the number of places you're selling at. You can simply go and you can have one admin store for your selling account, and you can regulate all your tasks simply from there. That's where centralized feed management comes in the role. We also help you, like the integration solutions also help you reprice products. At certain marketplaces, we've heard of the term buy box. The repricing feature helps you wins the buy box, be it on Walmart, Amazon, or others to call. Yeah, you can simply synchronize the products in real time. What benefits does synchronizing your products in real time hold? So it basically we see that while selling on n number of platforms, or let's just say I'm selling on 2 platforms at a time. I'm selling through my BigCommerce store and I'm selling on Shopee. And due to some reasons, both of my stores are not synchronized to each other. So what happens is I receive a store on Shopee at some point in time, say at 12 a.m. or maybe at 3 a.m. in the night, right? So what happened was I missed the order notification due to a certain reason, which made me not reciprocate on the order right on the time, and thus it led me lose on the order, which affected my seller ranking at the end of the day. So syncing products in real. So when we synchronize your products real time, we mean that we simply give you the automated notifications at both the stores very flexibly. Yeah. So no matter the time, no matter the place you are, you'll get notified with the orders that keep coming. So you can avoid the chances of overselling if there is any to come. And with our integration, we also help you in bulk uploading your listings, and there are certain other features that we offer. So I would love to connect people after we discuss, and then reach out to us for better explanation. Yeah. So we also we also have seen that the lack of channel integration causes retailers to lose around 2 to 4% of their revenue. So here are a few of the challenges faced with the retailers when selling online. One can be not meeting the criteria laid down by the marketplaces. That's where we come into the business, and we help you onboard seamlessly under the marketplaces. We help you understand the requirement of the marketplace and proceed further. Adaptability is one of the main pain points. Then lack of know-how to prove or even achieve the essential prerequisites. At times, manual product uploading and app management takes hours. It can be even days when you have higher product SKUs with yourself. So that can be really tiring for you. So these are some of the pain points that we address in a nutshell. Yeah. And well, here at CedCommerce, we've been bringing merchants and marketplaces across the globe for a decade now. And here is case study of Team Vanderbar, who was selling in the US and had approached us with the aim of expanding their sales to the SCA market. And they're also selling flexibly onto the Shopee marketplace right now. And they're really doing good. Like they're really doing good with their sales figure right now. So yeah, that's how I'd like to go about it. And so yeah, I'd like to hand it over to you, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, great. One more thing, and obviously I'm I'm riffing on John's comments around like, yeah, how do we deal with this craziness of like, where does a distributor fit in? And then on the backs of that challenge, we're hearing companies like CedCommerce and EasyShip making it super easy to start syndicating and selling cross-border. How does that play out? And now to throw another thing on top of it, payment localization. Companies don't need their own bank account or their own entity in certain regions. Payoneer gave me the slide, and I asked them for like some input. And basically, if you're receiving from marketplaces, so if Shopee, for example, is paying out US-based businesses, they have the ability to sell on all these platforms, and then they get paid out in multiple different currencies without actually having a bank account. So if the question is, well, can a company sell on Shopee and actually remit funds back if they don't actually have an entity set up in the ASEAN region? The answer is yes. And the businesses have the ability to pay directly to suppliers through bank accounts that are run through basically an intermediary bank syndicate that Payoneer basically is set up, right? So yes, of course, if you have two people on the same network, that's free. But marketplace integrations is interesting because now here's where it gets interesting. When you can list on Shopee will ask you, or most marketplaces will ask you, what's your bank account? And if you say it's a US bank account, Shopee will take a fee. They'll remit the funds back with whatever fee and FX rates they determine. And by the time it gets to our merchants in the US, they can often lose a lot of that money. But if Shopee says, oh, you've got a local bank account, so the Shopee bank account is talking to our merchants' bank account, which is essentially an agency through Payoneer or through with Reach or a bunch of other services. If there's a connection there for another local bank, and then that local bank in mass remits that money, it reduces the FX rates for our merchants. It reduces the decline rates, and it creates a much better customer experience because it keeps a steady FX rate over the long term while somebody's got products sitting in their checkout over a week, and that price point won't change due to the influx of currency. So a lot of stuff. We could do a whole session on payments. I won't take a lot, but I want to just say that there's so many different ways coming out to do this. And that is the segue into the man, the myth, the legend, who's been sitting here quietly. Zak, please talk to us about shipping and fulfillment. And I'm going to just talk quickly. I'm going to go right to your slides. I'm going to even skip over my slide because there you are. Zak Tan, head of sales, and he's Singaporean, everybody.
Yep. So it's in the morning right now. So morning, everyone.
No one's as charged up. I'm waking everyone up. I'm sorry about that.
All right. Yep. So I'm based in Singapore. So what we do is mainly handle the sales within Singapore and Southeast Asia region. So for shipping and fulfillment, I believe everyone knows that cross-border e-commerce is the future. There is a huge growth in terms of sales for cross-border e-commerce. So in 2021, it is projected to be 4.69 trillion, and it is expected to reach 5.9 trillion by 2023, right? So this births, it's mainly due to COVID, where basically most consumers actually change how they actually make purchases. So even my grandma, she started buying stuff like buying groceries on using her mobile phone. So basically, this changes the whole scenario within Southeast Asia itself. Next, right? So, as everything gets more connected, consumers tend to be more demanding. As in, they have more choices and they want to know what are the choices you're offering, right? So consumers they either want fast delivery or they want to have choices and visibility on what sort of shipping solutions are they going to use instead of just having like Economies, Standard, and Express. They want to know who are the couriers. They want to be able to track it. And everyone loves free or reduced shipping, right? So free shipping, it's always a good boost. It tends to allow that consumer to actually purchase more because they'll be like, oh, I don't have to pay for shipping, so I can maybe buy another item and so on, right? So the thing is that we realize global expectations for shipping has increased. Consumers, wouldn't mind paying for express shipping options, but not all retailer actually offers that itself. All right, and we can move on. All right, so what can EasyShip do for you in terms of cross-border shipping? So the advantage is that you do not have to open any courier account. So what this means is that basically, if you are a merchant selling in US itself and you are only using USPS, you do not have any account with FedEx, you do not have any account with DHL and so on. With EasyShip, you have instant access to all these couriers. You have access to other couriers, which is lesser known as well. So what happens is that you can just start shipping right away instead of trying to reach out to the courier, trying to get a pre-negotiated rate, and then to have a commitment volume with them, right? The next thing is that you can show live rates at checkout. So this actually avoids a lot of work on the back end where you actually input a flat rate for certain region or for certain country itself. So our algorithm will be able to allow you to choose what is the cheapest, what is the fastest, what is the best value for money solutions. And even you can allow your clients to select a prepaid option, right? So it's taxes and duty prepaid. You do not need to know what documents is required as well, because we will generate everything for you. All you have to do is print it out, attach it onto the parcel, and wait for the courier to come and collect it. Right. So besides that, you can have full visibility all in one place. Like Josh mentioned early on, where you sell on Instagram, you can actually connect it to BigCommerce. So what happens is that on EasyShip itself, you can integrate with BigCommerce and multiple platforms. So you can have an overview of all your shipments and all your orders on one dashboard itself. You are able to print out all the documents, and then you're able to track all the shipments on that dashboard. And at the same time, you can notify clients with it as well, right? So and with EasyShip, you can basically ship to anywhere, either in DDU or DDP. Right.
DDU, delivery duties paid, so DDP, delivery duties paid, DDU, delivery duties unpaid. The idea of having consumers pay upfront the duties and taxes at first as DDP or DDU, where you actually put, if you're a US seller selling into the region, you actually put the responsibility on the consumer to actually go ahead and pay that. Zach, you're saying basically, I would imagine the consumers prefer DDP in ASEAN and most, or no?
So it depends. It depends on what is the product itself, right? Because the advantage of DDP is that basically it gets cleared by custom really quickly. But the disadvantage of DDP is that the couriers would charge you a sort of handling fee itself. So it tends to be slightly more expensive, but then you do not get any delay in customs.
So this is interesting. Do you mind me just diving in real quick? I mean, I know we don't have much time, but we've seen companies in general, the mantra is, hey, do DDP, meaning have you pay up front your consumers' duties and taxes so they don't have to, because later they're going to have to drive down the road to go to the post office to pay that after the fact. They're not going to want to do it. They may even return the product. So we say that, especially in Europe, but we're seeing certain regions where consumers are actually choosing not to use DDP, for what Zach's saying, because they know that they'd rather not pay that much, and they're happy to take that drive. And maybe it may even go under the certain threshold, and they don't have to pay it. So, Zach, I'm going to go through the slides. I do have a question for you after this, though.
Yep.
Did you want to talk about this? Yeah.
Yep, sure. So I mean, our time is short. So OmniChannel is king, like what Josh and Shruti mentioned earlier on. Basically, the more channels you sell, the more exposure you get, especially within Southeast Asia, where there is different sort of, there is so many marketplaces and so many platforms available. So it is good to be exposed to all this market to actually gain awareness for your brand within Southeast Asia itself. And, with EasyShip, you can access unlimited integration and have different shipping rules. The next thing is that our integration with BigCommerce actually provides you with live rates at checkout. At the same time, we do display potential taxes and duty rates as well. So this would actually avoid any dispute in terms of, the clients rejecting the item because they didn't know that they have to pay taxes and duty, right? Because especially for Southeast Asia, most of them, they might be the first time they're actually purchasing something from international website. So this is to actually avoid any dispute and to have a smoother transaction with the clients itself. So
sorry, Zach, you say you're guaranteeing duties and taxes. So if you get it wrong, you pay the difference. Is that
right? So for a DDP option, we are guaranteeing it. So basically, whatever price we put, EasyShip would bear if there is any difference. But if it is a DDU option, which is an unpaid option, what happens is that we alert the buyers that potentially they might have to pay this amount, because in some instances, it gets through custom without being charged. So that is something at least we pre-warn them that potentially you might have to pay this amount. So this is and we state that it's an estimated figure itself.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to quickly go through some of your last slides and then.
Yep. So
yeah, go.
Sorry. All right. There is a few options to get into Southeast Asia. You can ship directly from US, or alternatively, you can use a fulfillment center in Singapore as a hub to serve the Southeast Asia region. Or you can use any other countries such as Australia as well. So EasyShip has fulfillment partners worldwide. We'll be able to assist you in terms of storing your products and order fulfillments as well.
Great. I don't want to go too much into here's the big takeaway here, like for everybody, right? And then you can talk about this, or you can ping us after. But the big takeaway is EasyShip does make it easy. There are other companies like EasyShip. They will help facilitate your direct-to-consumer cross-border needs and your merchants. The idea is that now you've got this really interesting kind of synergy between where your merchants can list products on marketplaces around the world, particularly in ASEAN. They can fulfill direct to the consumer from their US existing warehouse. But again, all these services could also be used by a distributor if they want to represent, US companies in country, if they can argue that the value is there. And most companies, despite how easy all this sounds, still would probably prefer, okay, I've got a distributor that's going to take certain aspects of it. So I don't want to say that there's no room for distributors anymore, because certainly there is, right? Can you talk a little bit about returns? Have you talked about returns real quick, Zach?
Yep. So for returns itself, what happens is that we're going to have a portal to allow global returns. So for returns, there is a few ways. If you have a fulfillment partner warehouse, let's say, you can actually have the returns all shipped back domestically within Southeast Asia, and then you can decide whether you want to ship it in bulk back to the US, or do you want to dispose it itself, right? Because what happens is that returns is most of the time it's either defective. If it is not defective, for example, if it is rejected by clients because it fails to clear customs and stuff like that, it actually gets sent back to you. So it depends on what sort of returns. Is it an RMA, or it's just simply it failed to be delivered to the clients itself?
Great. We're going to quickly, again, all this content, ping me if you guys want specific deep dives on certain aspects of it. If you have certain questions, there's a question right now that I'm going to let Zach germinate on while we go to Meridith. Zach, put your thinking cap on for that one. And we're going to, before we get to takeaways, Meridith, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yes. Thank you for having me. Happy Friday, y'all. Just quickly, I know that Josh had touched on the content that I had put together. So Josh, I really appreciate that. I think what we got out of that, right, is that this is a really drastically changing landscape. We're kind of in the golden age, if you will, of e-commerce. We've seen more growth in the past 3 to 6 months than we have in 10 years on e-commerce. So that's really, really gotten a lot of regions up to speed. So that's great. So we're taking, offline to online. So I would say, of course, you have to have your digital showroom, if you will, and you've got to be online and kind of meet that customer in their journey. And how do we do that, right? So obviously, there's a lot of ways to do that free. We had recently, the end of the last year, offered free listings for shopping. But I think one of the quickest and the easiest ways, and I'll just spend a few minutes on this, is smart shopping campaigns. It's really, really easy to launch a Google Smart Shopping campaigns. And why we did this is just managing campaigns have become more and more challenging as retailers strive to reach customers along, the increasingly complex paths to purchase. So what smart shopping campaigns, and we say at Google, just for just ease is SSC. SSC is our newest type of campaign, shopping campaign, and it just drives simplicity and performance by reaching retailers' business goals through machine learning across Google's suite of ad networks. So SSC again is relatively new, and it really heavily falls on automation, on ad creation, targeting, bidding, and budget allocation across the network, so that your retailer doesn't have to worry. And basically, it goes off of retailers' business goals. So smart shopping campaigns optimize towards the retailer's business objectives. So that might be they have a budget, let's say, and they go after the maximum amount of conversions within that budget. Or they might set up a little bit more of a savvier technique, which is a target return on ad spend, right? So say, hey, we're going to give X amount of dollars and we want to see X back. So it's nice because, again, it supports the end user, that retailer's business goals. So I would definitely, in this golden age, right, really look to launch smart shopping campaigns for your retailers, and taking that feed from BigCommerce and deploying it for Google Ads. So that's just a little bit of kind of, I know we talked about the high level overview trends, and then it's like, all right, now how do we go ahead and get in front of that customer? I would say the how would be, for a smart shopping campaign, and I'm more than happy to give you, Josh, some information on launching SSC, and so that way it's kind of, food for thought, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith. Again, I would say, and I'm going to do a little bit of a closeout, but I would say, per what Meredith's offer to send stuff through, if you guys afterwards say, hey, you know what, we'd love to do a deep dive just on, social media, digital marketing, et cetera. And if Meredith is so inclined, if she doesn't mind at some point to come back, we should do more about optimizing that. I'm sorry. Listen, everyone's eyes go probably crazy. I'm trying to there we go. Not to me. That wasn't what I was trying to do. To this. So Meredith, thanks for that final recap. And that's the message around, again, for US companies, we've got it in hand. We have the biggest, best digital service companies in the world that we're familiar with, Google being a major one of those, right? We already know how to do it in our US country. It's not so dissimilar to go do it overseas. Of course, you got to figure out localizing content. We've got a shipping company that can do direct to consumer, EasyShip, making it easy for our companies to ship overseas. And then we've got an integrator like CedCommerce to help manage that syndication across marketplaces around the world. And platforms like the one that I represent, where we're talking about how to manage that all through a single dashboard. But again, the most important thing is it's able to be done. And I see comments coming in around like, well, where do we fit in? And I think there's always a need for people on the ground to cut through the noise. The biggest challenge our companies have is they don't have boots on the ground. They don't know what to do, to really engage with consumers and their consumer base. And the end of the day, what's probably going to happen is you're going to have such a saturation because every brand from anywhere in the world can now go everywhere. So how is a consumer going to figure out what they want? It's going to be micro niche. It's going to rely on micro influencers / micro influencing consumers who then also say what they like. And that's going to be a major trend that's going to ultimately come back down to why our companies and our products over others. And that's that direct engagement through authentic digital means, right? Okay. Us at single customs window. There is a question that Zak, you answered. They asked me, it's not helpful with e-commerce. At this point, it was. Zak, do you want to verbally say anything about that?
So I guess like for the ASEAN single custom window, it's more related to digitalizing the ASEAN members, how they pass the custom documents and stuff like that. But what I've understood from it is that it is mainly for the products which originated from these countries itself. So I don't believe that it would be helpful for e-commerce at this point of time. Okay.
All right, great. So again, real recap, right? So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to send them through. If you haven't done the campaign, the poll, here's the results though of the poll. So Thailand comes in as a winner under the countries that are that your clients are most interested in entering, followed by Indonesia, followed by Indonesia, and then Singapore, then Malaysia, Philippines, and Myanmar, and then Brunei. What are the top challenges facing your companies? Top one, this goes out to you, Zach, logistics. And then Meredith, you got marketing, you've got payments, and then integrators like Shruti. That wasn't really on the question, but I want her to feel, I don't want her to feel left out, you know. Top takeaways, borderless commerce is the new normal. It's going to happen. It's happening already. And there are SaaS solutions for both B2B and B2C. What we don't talk about, and the chip, when you're hearing all this, is probably filtering it around B2C companies. But I will tell you the largest growth area is B2B. Procurement is going online and going through marketplaces more and more. Merchants are needing to have a website that can facilitate B2B with isolated SKU sets, very different terms for payment. And there's ways that your distributors can plug into those B2B platforms. Absolutely. And we can talk about that maybe on a separate session just around B2B and maybe channel conflict. Sell everywhere. Your customers are boosting acquisition. Obviously, when we're seeing issues around pandemics, you're seeing issues around trade wars. You need to diversify those lines of sales and integrating the services stack. When you work with integrating services, you can really do a great job with creating a localized experience for the consumer, where they're not waiting for those DDP, DDU solutions. They're not sure about when the product's going to come, if it's authentic. All this stuff is now capable to articulate, and our companies have to articulate that to the local consumers. And finally, fulfillment is your differentiator. It sounds like an isolated one here, but actually the number one concern, as we're seeing, and the number issue is logistics. Are the customers, did I order from a real site? Is it really going to come to me? When's it going to come to me? Do I have to pay anything? The companies that do it right get the loyalty. And that's that 80-20 Pareto principle rule. Get your revenue from those loyal customers first and foremost, and do what it takes to capture that audience right off the bat. Obviously, as we're saying, lots to take in, a lot to digest. I hope that we can come back and do some more deep dives, a lot of stuff to talk about. And I'll send a follow-up with some links and some information. Thanks our panelists as well. Thanks to the commercial service and the whole team that has been amazingly helpful also in helping us at BigCommerce start to find new partners.